I'm Gavin McGaughey, and you're watching the MIXX Network.
Hi, I'm Erica Noell, Queen E. We're having real talk with Gavin McGaughey, who is running for North Carolina Senate, North Carolina House, and we're having some real talk right here. We're trying to figure out what his purpose is. We have a purpose, and what he can do for all of the people of Rockingham County. Amen?
Amen.
Okay, so let's get started. So, as I stated before, you're running for North Carolina House.
Yes, State House Seat 65, which is just Rockingham County right here. It follows the same political boundaries.
Okay. So for the people who don't know, what does a House seat represent?
So the State House of Representatives is just structurally very similar to the State Senate in that it's just a geographical area where people get to elect a representative who goes to Raleigh to help make sure that the state responds to the needs of their community.
The needs of their community. So that means that the people where you are from, where you represent, all the people should vote for you. And why should we vote for you?
I would like to ask people to vote for me because at the core of my politics is a belief that we can do more and do better for the people who live here. And that for too long, too many people have profited off of us and the people in our communities and everyone here from suffering. They don't fund our schools properly. They don't fund social programs properly. And then they want to gentrify and they want to move in higher earners to kind of push us out. And this is a coordinated effort by the powers that be to kind of keep us quiet and not taken care of. And I think our communities deserve better from Eastern Reidsville to Western Rockingham. We all deserve more than what the state is willing to give us because the special interests keep a really tight grip on the power in Raleigh. And I think I personally, like for this campaign, we don't take donations from PACs. All of our donors are individuals, and you won't see me doing a PSA for a tax cut for Walmart. So
that's awesome. Our money has been rooted and grounded in different kind of politics, and basically, Rockingham County is tired of it, and we're looking for something different. And you, my friend, you look different.
I try.
Yeah, you look like one of us. Okay, I'm gonna say it like that, and I say it like that because you look like you're down home. Down home, you look like you have been in the trenches. You don't look like the rest of them. Yeah. You don't look like a suit.
Oh, and I'm not.
And money. So that means that you've come from the trenches with us.
I was born in Greensboro, raised in Madison, Mayodan. I've lived all of my life, except maybe a summer or two, I spent with my dad works in construction. I worked in construction. I also worked in glass manufacturing and the service industry. I've never held a corporate job of any kind. I went to the University of North Carolina at Greensboro. I've always been a blue collar worker. I've always lived in a blue collar community. And I've always done my best to advocate for and speak up for people in my communities whenever I have the opportunity. And I think too often there is a separate political class, and I'm not going to get into too much of a personal tirade about it, but you could look at like Phil Berger. I think he was a lawyer for many, many years, and I think you could see in how little he actually came home and talked to his constituents that there was this sort of divide there in this lived experiences. Okay. And I think that's a very important thing for an elected official to have, because if you're not from the place you represent, or you're not a part of the community of the people you represent, or you don't know anything about any of the people who live there, except what you can put on a bumper sticker, then maybe you shouldn't represent those people.
Hey, I feel the same way. So, with you representing Rockingham County, what do we expect from you?
I think to expect a lawmaker who will be honest with you. If I have a piece of legislation that I'd like to write and propose, I want community feedback. I want to talk to the people about it. I have all kinds of absolutely crazy, far out ideas sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes I'll feed them over to Jennifer, and she'll tell me, "I workshop that."
Mm-hmm.
Um, but also a deep honesty. I get asked all the time, "What's the first thing you'll do as a state legislature?" And I tell people, I'll do whatever I can as long as the power in Raleigh is structured the way that it is, and the Republican majority maintains as thoroughly as it has in recent elections. Very little structurally, but I'll be the loudest voice screaming the most often, and I won't I won't let up
Mm-hmm.
as far as that's concerned. You won't see me relent or give them you won't see me surrender the point, I guess is the most important part.
The main thing, when you get to the the state, is how can you keep the people behind you?
I think that's very well rooted in the honesty thing again. I think if, as a legislature or as a legislator, if you're honest with the people you represent, if you're coming to Reeves when you're saying, "Hey guys, like I put forth this bill to try and help. I want more money for river protection here in the county, or I want a restructure for taxes to give the low, like an idea that I'm a big fan of is a progressive income tax,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, so if you come to reason, you're like, look, guys, this is what I'm trying to do.
So, let me stop you there. So, when you say progressive income taxes, a lot of people that does not know what that is. So, what is progressive income tax?
Okay. Progressive income tax is essentially a tax where your tax rate goes up the more money you make.
Mm-hmm.
So think your federal tax system
Mm-hmm.
is already a progressive tax
Mm-hmm.
system. People who make, and I'm not going to be exact on the numbers, but I think it's less than $24,000 a
Mm-hmm.
year, pay roughly 5%. And then you have another tax bracket, and of the cash in this bracket, you pay a slightly higher percentage than the last one. Um, I think that's a very effective system. It's one we had in the state for decades until the Republicans took control of the state and they made it
Right.
a flat tax rate. And all that's done is benefit higher earners and not really do a whole lot of anything for the people in the lower tax brackets who are still paying the rate they would have been paying
Mm-hmm.
if we had kept the progressive system. So that I think that's a very easy, important first step that we could work on to help fund the social programs that people here obviously want and need. We were looking over numbers from the state, and I think somebody can fact check me but the rate of Medicaid usage
Mm-hmm.
in this county was, I believe, 1 in 3 people were eligible for Medicaid, and then it was 1 in 6 that were eligible for food stamps. If not, then those numbers are backwards.
Mm-hmm.
But the point is that there is such a high percentage of people here that qualify for those programs, and that's because of economic downturn,
Mm-hmm.
a lack of state investment,
Mm-hmm.
um, and a community that's saying like, "Hey, we need help," and you could better fund these programs with a progressive income tax. You could better take care of these communities with a progressive income tax. Um, and I think that, right, trying to have those conversations, telling people or discussing those things with people is one the most effective way to get the point across and to be the best help to them that I can be is trying to, and I don't like to say like educate people because that feels wrong and it feels condescending
Right.
at times, but to let people know like, hey, there's more your government could do, they just choose not to. And if there were more people who felt that way in Raleigh,
Mm-hmm.
there is more that it would do.
Okay. So, um, being let me see how to say that. Being a white man
Mm-hmm.
talking to your black constituents, what would you tell them? How would you tell them that you could work with them? It's hard for us to trust.
And I'll be the first one to tell you that I completely understand that. There are far too many times I have sat in a space and I've heard a politician talk to me, and I would say that's pandering,
Mm-hmm.
or you're trying to win the black vote. Like that's all. And I hope at the very least that it is my genuine response that comes across the most clear, that I don't seek in any way to pander to black people. That's not my goal. My goal is to have a message deeply rooted in working class values and working class ethics. And I think that I think black folk respond well to that. Every black person I know in my community works hard. They do what they can to provide for themselves and their family. They work just as hard as everybody else. There's absolutely harder, because there is a structural system around them that continues to attempt to deprive them of the bare necessities that it does not do the same thing to white people for. You know, I went to Huntsville Elementary School, and Huntsville was built out in Western Rockingham in like 2005. And I remember sitting in classrooms with like 27 kids, and there would be one or two black kids. When I got to Western Rockingham, and you bring in Dillard and Huntsville and the other elementary schools, or is it like Stoneville? And when I got to Western, I was like, there are far more Hispanic and African American students in this county than Huntsville would make you think there are, right? And I get what you're saying, because I have a problem with how white politicians are too. I think there are too many of them. I think too large a percentage of the ruling class of this country is exclusively white.
So let me ask you this, and I'll change that around so that it won't sound like I'm trying to be a racist person. How do you unite the white, the black, Hispanic?
I think that the unifying factor for everybody is the ways in which our system is broken, right? So I think a lot of the times the conversation gets caught up in racial divides when, and of course I say this because it is mostly white people who project this problem, but it's
both sides.
Yes, but I find more often than not that if we could solve a lot of these economic problems, I think it would put us in a far better position to solve the social problems.
So, again, your baseline, if we vote, everybody votes, and we vote you in, your one thing that you could do, or you would try to do, if you could only do one thing for Rockingham County. You've heard the people. You know what they need. You've been here. You know what we need, what we want, what we're searching for. What would that one thing be that you could do?
I think if I'm doing one thing, if I could structurally alter this state in any way that I wanted with one major policy, I think it would be a universal healthcare system at the state level. Because I think far too often you have health disparities in black and white communities. Because, and I was just reading about this the other day actually, like pulmonary capability tests, just to measure how well people can breathe. There is a up until I think it was 2023, there was a pre-baked in number that just started Asian Americans and African Americans at a lower percentage than white people who took the same test. They just subtracted to account for blackness, and that surprised me. As you're not really taught both at the high school or college level for a lot of these things how deeply rooted racism is to so many aspects of American culture and society. So I think if I could solve one problem, just one, it would be a universal healthcare system that could help tackle health disparities to make sure that everybody, especially people of color, had access to quality care. Because there's no reason for rates of disease and chronic illness to be higher in black communities than white ones. There's no reason for that.
I'm Erica Noell. We're sitting here talking with Gavin McGaughey. Some real talk about how to get to the North Carolina state, okay? And he's running for House.
Mhm.
House representative. So, in running for House representative, what are your plans?
So right now we've been focused on trying to figure out how to best engage with younger voters
Mhm.
because I find that they're the people who need to be the most engaged with because they're the least likely to participate unless they feel specifically targeted. Um, when I started running, a lot of people told me, "Oh my God, being in your 20s is so helpful. People are going to respond so well to that." And I don't know if that's necessarily
They
the
find it
case.
hard.
Yeah, I find a
Find it
lot of
hard.
people look at me like, "You
Who
don't know
are
what you're
you?
talking
What are you
about.
talking
You're really
about?
young.
Mhm.
I don't think you understand the complexities of that." And that's fine. That's fair. If people want to feel that way. Um, but I would just say that don't discount me because of how old I am.
Mhm.
But also that there is a certain lived experience growing up in the 21st century exclusively that I think is offered to me that perhaps people who can actively remember the 20th century don't necessarily have.
Mhm.
Right? Like, we were at the 5th District Convention um, in Stokes County in Walnut Cove, and I was talking about how there is this vision of government that people pre 2000 had, that people born in the late 90s and post 2000 don't have, and there's this idea that at a time there were governments that worked, right? Like they did things, they helped people, people could see the effects of their government in their lives.
Mhm.
And kind of since, the Reagan Revolution and the Bush era of the 2000s, that's kind of not been the case. But I think trying to remind younger voters that your action, your involvement, your participation creates those governments that respond to people. Because like you go back to the '60s and you look at, okay, what's the most popular piece of legislation that the largest number of people want in the 1960s, and you get the Civil Rights Act, right? And I don't think that happens without the participation of young people. Young black and white students who were willing to get things thrown at them running on a bus to Alabama. You know, if young people aren't willing to participate in the system, and the only people who are running the system and participating in it are older people with a very narrow set of policy goals, then you don't get a system that helps everybody, right?
It's hard to get the young people from age 18 to 30 to
Mm-hmm.
unite and get out and vote. How would you help? How would you help do that?
So my first thing is trying to have a conversation with younger people in my age bracket. I assume most of the time. My sister is in her early 20s, and another one of my sisters is right at 17. And I go to them and I talk to them. I'm like, hey, you're 21. What are the like? What is the thing for 20-year-olds right now? And she looks at me and she goes, "You're 27." I'm like, I know, but people have always told me I'm kind of old for my age. Because on a Friday night, I prefer to read a book. Sit at home. I'm not going to a party. Um, but I think it's showing people how real the stakes are. Because a lot of people, it's like, oh, none of that matters to me. I don't care. And I sat down at work, or I was at work the other day, and I was explaining to my coworker, I was like, the state's legislation, like if you're 21 or 22 or 18 or 37, if you move into an apartment up here in Reedsville and you get your power bill, it's like every dime of that was decided by the state legislature. At the end of the day, they decided, yeah, I think we'll just let Duke charge people more for no discernible reason other than the fact that they donate large amounts of money to the political system.
They can do it.
And they can.
They have a monopoly.
And they do. And it's so and it, like this is one of my crazy ideas is maybe state run electrical systems. Like why is electricity a commodity we buy from Duke Energy since it's such a necessity for modern living? Why is it not managed by the state government? Why is it not sold at cost to people who live here? Why is this something we have to negotiate with a large corporation to get a hold of for people? That doesn't make any sense to me. This is a living necessity for the 21st century. So it's really trying to engage younger voters in a dream, right, an aspiration. Because I think that was something the Obama administration was really great at, was telling people the dream is whatever you make it, but you have to get off the couch to make the dream a reality, right? And I think that's the core of it, is trying to remind young people that a dream can happen. We can have a totally different system that's nothing like the one we live in right now. We just have to actually get out and try and be a part of the change that we want to see in the world. Because if we don't, it won't come.
True. Now, as a mother of 5, and all of them are from 31 to 37, they vote only every 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I have to struggle to get them to vote that every 2 year thing with the Senate and House and all that stuff. So how do you get them to be motivated to come out every 2 years? Because I think this voting period for the Senate, the House, is more important almost than voting for the president. Because if you move the House, then you run the world basically. So
for me, I find that what has worked best for me is one-on-one conversation a lot of the time, right? Trying to find in an individual what matters most to them, and then trying to figure out a way to tie that to either like a recent policy decision or a recent candidate who was running for office. So for some people, it's a lack of information, really. Our algorithms are so well designed to keep us in an entertainment and information bubble, right? So for some people, it's just trying to break into the bubble. It's like, hey, I see you're a really big fan of, like outdoor recreational activities. Like you and your family go out to you guys go to the beach every summer, and you go to the Dan River very often, and it's like, keep in mind, in November when we vote for the state legislature and the federal government, the House, and we'll have a Senate election this year, it's like those people, as inconsequential as you think they may be, get to decide at the end of the day how much of what is allowed to be dumped into that river.
Exactly.
And how much, the cities can pull out so you can take showers and cook food, right? So these people make dramatic decisions every day that'll affect your life. And for some of them, it's just trying to make sure they understand that. Because for a lot of people, the government is just kind of this thing that exists off in a different space that has no effect on their day-to-day life, and they can't think of anything that relates to it. But it's, your power bill, your roads, your schools. And I hear a lot of people will say, like, oh, well, I don't have kids. Like, school's not really a problem for me. It's like, you go to the store. You interact with people who went to school. You will continue to ride on roads. And the people who built them went to a school. And we live in a society where everything is interconnected. And to try and think of yourself as completely separated from all of these institutions is just realistically infeasible. So it's a lot of trying to show people how they're connected and letting them know, like, hey, remember that when you decide not to vote, you're abdicating your responsibility to be engaged with the rules and systems that you're going to live in.
Well, when you think of it like that, a non-vote is a vote either way it goes. So I'd rather my vote count for something than count for what they wanted to count for. So that's one thing. In the internet world, do you have an internet presence?
We have a campaign Facebook page. I made a few TikToks for a campaign page. I try really hard. We have a website. Plug the website, gmfornc.com, if anybody wants to go check that out. But the Facebook page is probably the biggest thing. that we use as far as like online outreach. We're working on getting a text platform set up because we're trying to really get to the 18 to 30 demo because um, everyone across the state tells me that's the most effective way to get a hold of people in that age group. And I'll tell you personally, it absolutely is because if I get a phone call and I look at it and I don't recognize the area code, it goes right on the counter. I don't know what that is.
All those robocalls.
Yeah,
Man.
especially now when the caller ID just says potential spam. I'm just like locked. Oh, I'm not gonna engage with it.
Yeah.
But I'll check a text. I will. I know that.
Yeah, I'll look at a text before I answer a call.
Absolutely.
So, getting down to being in a North Carolina house, what makes you think that you can make the difference?
That's a good question, and it's one that I find to be the hardest to answer a lot of the time because I am just one person, right? And change requires all of us. It requires an active effort from so many of us that as an individual, it can feel kind of daunting at times. But in my home, in my community, in my city, in my state, in my country, you will find that if I can say something that I think will help make change, then I'll do that. So if I'm in Raleigh and I can't get people on the other side of the aisle to help me out to pass a piece of legislation, I'm sure the first place you'll see me is back home trying to explain to people why we need to reach out further, why we need to go maybe to, these counties, maybe Stokes or, rural Forsyth County. Like, hey, you know, this is a team effort. Rockingham has needs that are not unique to Rockingham.
Right.
And the state's job is to fill those needs. And I think what being a representative from Rockingham can do most is tell the state and the politicians that are watching and the political punditry that's watching that at the end of the day, people cared more about fulfilling their needs than social issues or what the political affiliation of their representative was. That what we need most is people who are willing to listen to us and willing to go to Raleigh and try and affect change that they know will help us.
We need feet on the ground.
We need feet on the ground, and we need knocks on doors, and we need messages sent, and we need everybody in the community to understand that you have your own personal responsibility to participate. And I know that to some people that sounds like a lot because I get it. There are Saturdays I'm sitting at home and I'm like, don't really want to go out. It's gonna be like 100 degrees today. And there are times, I'll let that win. And that's my own failing, and I get that too. But all I can ask is that when you have the opportunity to participate, turn out and not let every one of them pass you by. Because participating in the system is one, the only way we change it, and two, it's a really freeing thing to really to feel like you've said something that may have affected somebody. It's a really powerful thing. It's like, that's a change in the world that I helped create, and it's a really empowering feeling too. And I think more people, I feel like more when they understand that, I think they'd be more willing to engage.
That's about all the questions I have. Do you have any more questions? Anything I missed?
No, okay. I appreciate y'all taking the time to have me here.
Okay. This is Erica Noell. I'm with the MIXX Network talking with Gavin McGaughey, running for North Carolina House. And he's going to look into this camera and tell you what you need to do to come out and support him and to make this vote count and tell you a little bit about him and how he's going to do this.
So, again, I'm Gavin McGaughey, running for North Carolina State House of Representatives right here in Rockingham County, House District 65. I think the most effective thing we can do to get our message out and talk to the people in our community, first, canvassing. We'd love to see you guys. Um, we'll set up on we'll have it on the Facebook page. We'll set it up on Mobilize, which is a site for that. Um, we'll send out texts. The Rockingham County Democratic Party has a meeting this Tuesday, August 25th. Um, if this is up by then. If not, there'll be another one in September. You're always more than welcome to come to those too. We're going to have a meetup September 5th at base camp at 6 p.m. And we would really appreciate you coming out to that and just engaging with like-minded people, feeling the community, feeling the engagement, and and then we did just get the early voting schedules. Being somebody who can stand outside and just check on people at the polls is a really valuable way to participate. It lets voters know that they're not alone, because I find this to be the case with liberals or anybody who falls on the political left, maybe, that especially in rural communities, there is this sense of isolation. A lot of people feel alone. They feel like, oh, I would engage, but there aren't a lot of people who think like me. And that's not the case. You know, we're everywhere. We're here. Don't feel like you can't say something because you don't feel like you'll have the majority opinion. The majority opinion, oftentimes, is just wrong. Maybe you're right, right? So never feel like you shouldn't participate. Never feel like you don't want to participate. Always want to. Always do. Um, but outside of those activities, we'll be sending out texts. If you get one, we'd love a response. We'll be on the other end of those actually, so we'll be able to see what you have to say. Just come out. Just get off the couch or get out of the bed, get in the car, come down. We'd love to see you, we'd love to talk to you, have you around, hear from you. Just whatever you can do.
I'd like to thank you for talking with us here
Thank
at
you
the
for
MIXX
having me.
Network. Thank you for running. Thank you for doing your job, because every vote counts. Every voice is heard. No matter what you think, come out and vote. Make a difference. I'm Queen E with the MIXX Network. Glad to be with you.